Welcome to the RodeoKids.com podcast, where we empower youth to be their best selves through the values and traditions of the rodeo and Western lifestyle.
Hello, Miss Alysha. How are you? Are you ready?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Readier than I'll ever be.
Okay. Yes. Welcome, Miss Alysha. Thank you for coming. Really quick, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Alysha. I'm from Elmore, Alberta. I've been riding horses since the time that I could walk. And I love barrel racing.
Alrighty. So in this podcast, I was thinking we can talk about like a little bit of like the mental mindset and just like how mindset matters and stuff like that. So
Okay.
my first question is in your words, what does it mean to have a good mindset or a bad mindset?
Well, the horse industry is a really tough world to be in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always someone out there that wants it more. That's going to work a little bit harder, and there's, you know, you and a 1,000-pound animal that has its own mind every day, and how you walk into a situation really affects how your animal reacts to the situation. So, you know, leaving everything at the door before you get on your horse, so it's just you and your horse is really important. And staying positive and not getting to the point where you're angry, because I find that it never really works out very well. So always being positive and, you know, always taking things in happy strides, even if it's not going your way, because you all have tough days and you'll have good days, and you'll feel like you've made 1,000,000 miles, and then the next day you come in, you feel like you backtracked 20. And that's just how the sport goes.
Yeah. Okay. How can you have a positive mindset?
I like to look at it as this, you know, taking the little small gains, and making those, I guess, how the little small gains that I get every day with my horses, and I like to think of that as positivity, and, you know, I like to transfer that into the big picture. You know, I don't like to get caught up on what other people are doing and how they're doing things and what they're doing. I just kind of do my own thing, and, you know, I use myself as my own competition. I don't see other competitors as competition, because I just want to do better than I did the day before. And that really helps me stay positive and not get lost in the shuffle.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's really good advice, and I really like that you talked about the small gains every day. You know, it's kind of like if you think about like a blank canvas, like every day we start with a blank canvas, or every new horse we get is a blank canvas. And if you're an artist, then you create that masterpiece one stroke at a time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of the same deal. Like it's one stroke at a time. It's one gain at a time. It's one whatever tool you want to use, but one gain at a time that creates a big picture.
And I feel like
Yes.
so many people get lost by, you know, looking at the end goal and not everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like,
you know,
they look at the picture and they want to.
They're going for, you know, the top 5. They want that placing. They want the money, but they forget about everything that it takes in between. And, you know, they get disappointed and so discouraged that they didn't get that top 5 that they kind of lose themselves on the way. But if you look at it as, you know, I did better than I did yesterday, and I'm going to do better than I do tomorrow, and my only competitor is myself, it's a lot easier to stay focused and positive in my mind anyways.
Yes, I agree. And then what do you think, have you ever had a bad mindset just in your life, and how did it affect you?
I think everybody's had a bad mindset. You know, you lose a race, you knock a barrel. You know, I've gone to ranch roping stuff with young horses that have decided that, you know, the whole day is just a wash. They're scared of everything. You know, but they're young, right? Like it's really, really easy to have a bad day and, you know, get into that mindset of, oh God, I can't do this. You know, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I feel lost. You know, all of those things are very easy to take over, and negative thoughts seem to be more powerful than positive thoughts these days. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that. And, you know, I've been there. I've been in that spot where I'm like, God, I don't feel like I know anything. This really sucks. You know, you've traveled 10 hours and you've rode at 5 different rodeos and you're tired and you're exhausted, and, you know, you got to keep on keeping on. And it's hard. It's hard to stay in that positive mindset. But, you know, I just, like I said before, I look at them, you know, I look at everything as its own issue. I look at every day as a new day, or as your friend said there, a blank canvas. And, you know, I just try to make the best of it and just do better than I did the day before. And oftentimes, if you have a really bad day, it's really easy to do better than the day, you know, do better than you did the day before. And
I
just
definitely
start like gains from where you left off, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that like some people can like they paint their canvas and then they like paint over it instead of starting blank and starting new.
And you know, if you hold on to those emotions, and you know that you hold on to the frustration that you had the day before, I feel like your horse feels it. They know everything that you're feeling and thinking, and if you can't let go of that and start over new and take a deep breath and just move on from it, you know, it just starts to build on itself.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And one thing that comes to mind, like I just had my first child, and having a child is not the most comfortable experience in the world. Like it's pretty painful, and it was really long. And I just remember telling myself, and I've done this in other situations, this is just one day of the rest of my life. Like this is just one day. This is just one moment. This will not last forever. And when we think about those days that, you know, we do have a bad attitude or things aren't going our way or we're struggling, you know, because we're human and that's going to happen. And nowhere in the Bible does it say the word life is easy. And so I think just having that mindset that, okay, like I know that humans struggle and I'm a human and this is just one day, but it's only one day and tomorrow is going to be a different day and I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to learn from this experience and I'm going to get to start over again tomorrow. And that has definitely that helped me get through having my little child with a positive attitude and not being nasty to the nurses. And I think through just in everything, you know, it helps you even sometimes just give some grace to your horse because you're like, this is just one day and they have bad days too. And so you get to just think about, all right, how can we start over tomorrow? Yesterday was bad, but tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, especially when you get bucked off your horse or you take a hard fall or any of those things. You just kind of have to be bigger than whatever happened and just let it go. I know that a few years ago I fell off a horse and I broke my femur in 4 spots.
Ooh, ouch.
And mentally it took a lot to get back on, and your mind goes wild. Well, what if they do it again? What if it happens again? What if I re-break myself? You have all of those doubts and those thoughts when you go to swing your leg back over, and you're weak and you're not as strong, and you're very vulnerable at that point. But you just got to think about what you love and what you're capable of, and just take it step by step to get back to where you were, because you will take falls and you will take hits, and you will hit low points, and it's not easy. It's really not.
Yeah, how do you not get frustrated though?
I just look at it as little gains. So, when I broke my femur, it was like, okay, I could walk 2 laps today. Okay, the next day I'm gonna walk 3 laps. The next day I'm gonna trot 1 lap. And it was just building on that and taking my goals, achieving my goals, and then feeling good about the little gains, and then making my goals bigger and bigger. And eventually I got back to where I was.
Gentry, do you have a question?
Pardon?
How do you, when you get frustrated, when you test and when you get frustrated, how do you keep yourself from getting that angry at your horse?
Honestly, when I get frustrated at my horse, sometimes I just have to step off and take a walk, take a breath, walk 5 laps around the arena, go take a drink, or, go have a chit chat with somebody, and then come back and start over new. Because you're never going to get anywhere in anger, especially with your animals. They don't understand that, and they don't have the thinking brain, so they can't put logic to what's happening at them. They just know that they can feel that you're mad and that you're being aggressive with them. And when you get to that point, you just have to calm yourself down, even if you have to take a couple laps, or go have a sip of pop, or just take a break, and then come back. And if you have to work all day at one thing over and over and over again, then at least you leave that day on the good note. If you start getting mad, you start pulling on their face, spurring them, and doing all those things, I don't think it teaches them anything, and it just makes you more angry.
I think that's great advice. And along those lines, I think often, at least for me, when I've been angry with my horses in the past, or when I wanted to blame or take it out on my horses, it usually was something else that was happening in my life that was actually causing the frustration. So if I take a step back and I look at okay, where is this anger inside of me coming from? Why am I letting myself get so frustrated over this? Is it actually that my little brother's been picking on me all the time and I'm really mad about that? Or am I not doing very good in school? Or do I feel a lot of pressure to compete at a high level and I don't feel like I'm getting there fast enough, and my horse is not doing what I want him to today, and we're not going to be able to achieve that goal if we don't do good today? Thinking about those things. And most of the time, at least, everything that you're saying. And then also just when I take that look at myself, I can say, oh, this really has this anger, this frustration, this blame really has nothing to do with my horse. It actually has to do with me and the emotions and the expectations that I'm expecting my horse to do things that I'm not really communicating with them how to do, or we don't have the knowledge or experience to do the things that I want him to do.
Yes.
A lot of the kids that I teach and that I help with their rodeos and stuff, I ask them every day, did you check yourself out the door? And what that means is, did you leave everything that happened, previous to that, everything that's bugging your life, everything that, you're holding on to, did you leave it at the door? So you can just focus on you and your horse and let everything go during that hour or 2 hours that you're with them. And I think that that's really important, is to try to separate your emotions from your horseback riding.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen it a million times. Girls get bullied at school, or they had a bad day, or, one of our girls had her mom really sick with cancer, and that weighed a lot on her. And, she really had to work through that. And, she had to check her emotions at the door every time that she came in. And, there's been times where I've had kids cry on the horses and, lose their mind. And, you just have to bring it back down to square one and work through every step, one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. As you say that, I think about, like, I was a college rodeo coach in Rangeley, Colorado for a little while. And I remember one specific one-on-one session with one of the girls who has this really nice, high-powered, high-strung barrel horse, and she'd really been struggling with it. And we were working through some things, and like, she just had so much energy, and the horse was wanting to run off, and she was just getting really frustrated. And so I said, Hope, let's just stop for a second. Let's just talk about this. I said, well, what else is going on in your life that could cause, this frustration and this anger? Like, you've got so much energy built up right now. And she just started to break down in tears about everything else that was going on in her life that was transferring to her horse. She was really trying to do all the right things, but she just had all of this other energy built up. And when she let go of that, like, after we talked about it for a minute, and she was able to just release the tension around that, her horse started walking flat-footed. Like, the entire lesson just completely transformed once she, what you're saying, chucked herself at the door, pretty much, once we addressed what was really going on. And that is great advice. I love that, checking yourself at the door.
Yes. Alysha, just a quick question. How did you get started in rodeo, though?
Well, I started in rodeo kind of before I knew that I was getting started in rodeo. I used to show horses down in the Straits, and my aunt did a lot of quarter horse stuff in Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee. And we ended up buying a retired barrel horse, and that was the horse that I kind of grew up riding and showing, and I started rodeoing off of him and barrel racing off of him. And his name was Mountain, and he was absolutely fantastic. And sometimes he scared the piss out of me because he just went out and did his thing. And then I had to take a big break from rodeo because we had some family issues, and I couldn't wait to get back to it. I loved every moment of it. And then as I got older and I got to do my own thing, I started rodeoing again, and I think I'm just hooked. It's like a drug.
Okay. And also, what made you keep going? Like, after you realized that you rodeo, what made you keep going?
I think love for the sport. It's a great feeling running around barrels. I absolutely love roping. I do custom cowboying for a living. I work for different ranchers, feedlots, and I absolutely love working with young horses, seeing them grow and change and evolve into something great and amazing. And we take young horses. I probably started 10 horses in the last month. And we ride them until they're really good and solid and safe. And the really good ones we keep and we'll rodeo off of. And, the ones that are going to make level-headed horses, we end up selling and, providing somebody else with the same love that we have for them.
Wow. Yeah. How did you get into helping others, though? Like with rodeo? And just in general?
honestly, it was just kind of a backyard thing to start with. There was a few girls in the community that were doing 4-H and rodeo stuff, and they would come over and ride in our arena, and I'd help them out. And, the next thing turned into the next thing, and there was people calling me, and I'd get another phone call here. And it just turned out that, at one point I was teaching, not me alone, but we were teaching about 150 kids a week.
Holy cow.
We had about 75 horses in our barn, and I've downsized since then, but it was pretty busy for a while, and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The problem is when you run a barn like that, you don't get to do all the fun things that you love and rodeo yourself because you're so busy helping other people. And it just kind of strains your energy a little bit. So I've stepped back, and now I'm getting to follow my own dreams.
Yeah, thank you so much for helping me, though, through my riding and, with Flynn, and, yeah.
Well, anytime. I absolutely love doing it, and it was a lot of fun. And, it makes me so happy to see that, Flynn's getting to help somebody else and do what he loves, and he's getting to grow and advance as well.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Does anyone have any questions?
Gentry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What made you know that you wanted to do what you do now? What made you realize that you wanted to do that?
Oh gosh. I'm not really sure. That's a tough question. I think just love for sports, love for horses. I would honestly say that I love starting young horses more than I love rodeoing. It just tickles me pink to see how far they can come, and watch them grow from never having somebody on their back to making them into something magnificent that anybody can ride, that can go out and ranch on, and it just makes me very, very happy. But I don't think that it's one thing in particular that I love about it. I think I just love the whole lifestyle. I love the sports. I love the animals. It's just, I think it's a whole lot of love for a lot of things that makes me want to do it. And I love cows.
Doesn't everybody?
You mentioned that now you are kind of focused on chasing a more specific dream, it sounds like. What is that dream?
I'd like to get my pro card.
Oh, nice.
I placed 8th last year in amateur rodeo, and I'd like to advance from there. And I have a really nice young horse, and I'm hoping to accomplish that goal in the next couple of years here. And I'd like to be able to rodeo down in the U.S.
Nice. What are some things, like, as you are deciding, if you feel like you're qualified to buy your pro card or not, because these Peyton and Gentry are both pretty young girls. I've had my pro card in the barrel racing, and this is my first year getting my pro card to breakaway rope. So I'm pretty excited about that. But what are some things that are, when you think of now is the time, what makes you make that decision?
I think that's a really tough one, because I look back on it and I should have gotten it sooner. And, I've had some really nice horses, and I always second guess myself. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they're not good enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. But I think horsepower is a big part of it. And I think that time and money and skill is a big part of it as well. And, it's a big commitment to make. So, I'm kind of narrowing things back so I have the ability to do it. But it's a big commitment, and you got to have the horsepower. You have to have a great team standing behind you to be able to be on the road all that time and away. And there's a lot of factors to it, I think.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of factors. And I know when I decided to buy my card, I was kind of in a boat similar to you. Like I had a nice horse and I knew it, and I was doing pretty well at the amateur rodeos and stuff. And when it came time to make that decision, I think there just comes a point where you just have to say, I know I can do it. Even if you maybe aren't winning at the level that you're at, if you know that you have the potential and that your horse has the potential, you just have to go do it. Like I remember making that jump, and I think I placed it my first pro rodeo. And I was like, wow, like I went from amateur to pro, and then I made a nice run. But the thing is, a lot of the amateur rodeos are just as tough as the pro rodeos. But the pro rodeos are deeper in tough horses. And that was like the biggest difference, at least in the Great Lakes circuit where I'm at, which is one of the biggest circuits. And, but I'm really glad that I took that leap a little bit before I was even what I would say ready. Like I hadn't necessarily made it. I hadn't won the Amateur Rodeo Association here yet. I didn't win in the barrel racing and college rodeo, but I still knew that I had the skills, and I knew that my horse was fast enough, and I just prayed about it, and I believed that I could do it, and I made the jump, and it was totally worth it. Like, and we did well. So I just want to encourage you, all of you, like if you are at that point where you're like, do I take it to the next level? Am I qualified? If you know you've put in the time and you have the, as you said, the backing, whether it's financially or the support and the time to go do it. You only live once, and you got to challenge yourself, and you're only as good as the competition you surround yourself with.
Yeah, 100%. And, I kind of use, there's two ladies that gave up their pro card that compete amateur here, but they ran pro their whole life, and they're probably 60 or 70 years old. And they still come to the amateur rodeos, and they're between their 60s and their 70s, and they still come and kick everybody's butt. And to me, like, I look at them as kind of models. Like I want to ride that good. I want my horses to be that good. So I look at them as, really strong characters in the rodeo industry, because they've already done it. They know what it's all about, and, they give out great advice, and, having those people around is really important, I think.
Yeah, I think those mentors are awesome. My mom's 68 and she just got her pro card again. She's definitely inspired me. Yeah, she got herself she's always ridden and had some really nice horses. She's made it to the circuit finals and done all that in the past, and has just kind of been training horses and staying a little bit more local the last few years. And she sold a really nice young horse and decided to buy herself a 1D barrel horse. And she has been going, and she is doing fantastic. And like, it is such an inspiration. It's like, man, if she can do it at 68, I better be able to do it at 32. And you girls better be able to do it younger than me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's a rock star.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you mentioned that you ride horses in the feedlot and do just a lot of different things with them and ranch on them and everything. And then you take them into more event-specific training. What are the skills that you think those horses need to have before you decide to put them into barrel racing training or roping or whatever the next level is for competition?
Balance is super important. There's some colts that come out super balanced, and they just get it right away. I find that a colt that's super unbalanced and wobbly and can't get their hind end and their feet underneath them, I find that they struggle when it comes to specialized events. So I think that's really important. It's something that I look for in the horses. A good brain that's, you can push to that breaking point and they still stay sane and level-headed. I find that, if they get too pressured up just working cows at the feedlot and, can't handle, certain little things and have meltdowns, it's not going to be any different walking up the alley with, thousands of people screaming at you. Some of them come equipped with a really good brain and can handle it, and some are just a little bit more sensitive. And I find that really good brain makes a difference. And the most important one is heart. The horse has got to have heart, got to have try. If they don't have try, you can push them as much as they want. But if they don't want to do it, they're never going to make a competition horse.
I agree with that. Do you think that you can train balance into a horse, or is that something that they're naturally born with?
100%. You can train balance into a horse, and they can get stronger and better as you go on. But the ones that come balanced and have that natural ability just do a lot better, and they come a lot farther. I find you can train all you want, but you can only bring a horse as far as what they're capable of.
Yeah. How do you decide when they've reached their potential and you decide, like, okay, this horse is worth spending more time on, or it's time to cull this horse and go on to the next one and sell him more just as a riding horse versus a performance horse?
Kind of looking for all three of the traits. Like, we started a horse, absolutely gorgeous horse, great bloodlines, a couple weeks ago, and like, you watch him out in the field and he's the most balanced thing that I've ever seen. He's flashy. That horse has no brain. Every time that you try to make him go forward, you push him, like, that sucker a buck. And occasionally you get the horse that comes out of it and they make really good horses after, but when they're that young, they're 2-3 years old, and you have 2 months on them, they're ready and they want to buck every day.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in bringing that horse any further to try to push them to be a competition horse. Like, this is one that I wanted to futurity, but at the end of the day, there's so many good horses out there that want to do it that when you don't have that try, I'm not going to push you to have it. Like, that horse can go make a good trail horse for somebody and live a happy life doing what they want to do, but they're never going to have the heart to barrel race or rope or work cows or do any of those things, right?
When you are, like, you give lessons and Peyton found her horse through you, and when you are seeing especially like these young girls and boys, and they're figuring out like how to ride and how to get to the next level, what are things that you look for when pairing up young riders and horses?
Oh, that's a tough one. Really tough call, because sometimes it just goes down to a gut feeling, honestly. Sometimes, people have looked at me and been like, you're crazy. And, that's never going to work. And I just get a feeling that, that horse needs something that kid has, and that kid needs something that the horse has. And they turn out to be great. We had a camp a few years ago, quite a few years ago, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And one of our old retired barrel horses and rope horses, his name was Jet, and he was a speedy thing, but he was very broke. And I put an autistic boy on him, and they paired up like great. And everybody saw that horse as being like hot-headed, and I was like, no, this kid just needs something easy to ride, and they did awesome. And that boy, wouldn't stop talking to that horse the whole time that he was on him. And he would be, just saying Jet's name over and over and over again, trotting around. He'd be like, Jet, 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 Jet. And they just got along great. Could I tell you what I saw in it? I don't know. I just felt it. That was just my gut instinct, and I went with my gut, and it worked out great. So
yeah. If they were to be looking for a horse, like what advice would you have for somebody who is searching for a horse, their next horse?
Go with somebody that has a lot of knowledge about horses, because horse people are not always the greatest when it comes to selling horses. And make sure the horse is broke.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said earlier about trust your gut, because I think that's so important. And as somebody who's been on both sides of it, the training and the selling and the buying. I remember one time I had a girl come into my barn, and I had this 4-year-old, and he was a cool horse and had a lot of potential. I mean, he was fast, he was quick, he was pretty, he was all the things. And this girl wanted a step up horse and wanted a project. And, I thought, well, this would be just fine potentially, from what she said on the phone. But when she got there, like, she walked in the door, and this horse was just like alert and on edge instantly. You could just see the energy when she walked in the door that there was something that it was like, nope, this is not going to work. And that girl wanted to buy the horse, even though she was scared to death of him. And so, like, as the seller, I had to say, like, no, like, I can't sell you this horse. Like, I'm really sorry. You're a super sweet girl, but this just is not going to work. But the same thing, if you're in the buying position, if you go and you've seen all the videos and you've had all the conversations, and maybe you've even ridden this horse and it went okay, but there's still that feeling in your gut that just says, this just isn't right. Listen to that. Even if your parents can't see it, even if your parents are like, wow, like, he checks all the boxes, but you're like, nope, this just isn't the right one. Like, walk away, because you have to trust your intuition. There's something about that. And my parents bought me a horse when I was in high school. I even told my mom that I would listen to her. Like, she could help me through this, because I don't know about you guys, but I didn't listen to my mom very well when I was in high school, and she would try to help me run barrels and stuff. And so I made a deal. I was like, I'd really like to get my own young horse and, have you help me. And so they agreed. And my parents bought me a 4-year-old out of the Pittsburgh sale. My uncle picked him out, and he had, they roped on him a bunch, and like, supposed to be a really nice horse. And so I rode him for the first couple of weeks, and I told my mom, I was like, the horse hadn't done anything wrong. He looked good. He felt good. But there was just something that I said, I'm really trying here, but there's just something that just isn't quite right. And so my mom rode him for a couple of weeks, and she kind of said the same thing. So then she had my dad get on him and go back to roping on him, which he was a rope horse, so it should have been right up his alley. And the second time my dad roped on him, the sucker cut in two and bucked so hard that it broke his pelvis, and they couldn't get him to stop bucking after that. So moral of the story is trust your intuition, because if I hadn't trusted my intuition, that could have been me.
Yeah, 100%. And, for young kids, I always like to say that you should have a horse that you can grow into, not one that you've outgrown.
I like that.
There's so many people that are like, oh, well, that's too much horse for that kid, or, you got to get something that's only at their level. But if you don't have a horse that you can grow into, what skills are you developing if you're not? I don't know how to explain that, but you got to grow into a horse instead of outgrowing it all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like surrounding yourself with people that are a level ahead of you. Like, you always want to be leveling up.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you can grow 3 more levels or 4 more levels with that horse's knowledge, I think that's a better purchase than something that's sitting at your level and can't go any further.
Mm-hmm.
So I always, when our kids are looking for horses, I'm always looking for them to to have something that they can grow into and develop their skills on and get better with that horse, because it's really easy to slow a horse down and have a broke horse come back to you and stay with you than, you know, having to push something and push it and push it and push it and push it until it's tapped out, right?
Yeah. I want to go back to you talking about, you know, getting into pro rodeo. And one of the things that you mentioned is having a support system. What does that look like? And like, what does that mean to you?
Well, you know, good friends, knowledgeable trainers, good family, you know, somebody to help you talk through your emotions with, somebody to help you with the struggles that you're going to have with your horses, because there's always going to be a new struggle. There's always going to be something coming up. You know, a really good vet that can help you with soundness with your horse. And, you know, when you have a lot of horses, somebody at home that can look after things that you can't do when you're on the road. That's super important too.
Indeed.
You know, I think all of those things are really important. There's probably some that I'm missing, but
yeah, very good. And how do you choose those people?
well, I guess knowledge and experience and trial and error. You got to learn what you like and what you don't like and what works for you and what doesn't. The people that you surround yourself with, you know, I think that they should be stronger riders and, you know, people that can give you more knowledge and help you out. And, you know, somebody that's running in the 5D that's never been to a rodeo in their life is probably not somebody that I'm going to take their advice in reference to somebody that's been on the pro circuit and, you know, has started 150 horses in their life, right? Everybody wants to give you knowledge. Everybody wants to put their opinion on it, but you really got to pick and choose healthy opinions and not so healthy opinions. There's a lot of crap out there that you can get caught up in, and choosing is really a difficult thing because you can't always see it when you're young. So
Yeah.
relying on your parents and people that are more knowledgeable than you is really kind of, and listening and learning and observing what's around you and what other people are doing is really important. The power of observation is king.
I think observation is a huge word. Observation and like sitting back and just looking around and seeing from multiple angles, you know, observation and perspective. And just looking at it from more than one way is so important. You talked about how there's like a lot of, I call it BRBS, barrel racer BS. There's a lot of that out there. And like you said, there's a lot of people who are going to give you your opinions, whether you want them or not, or whether you need them or not. And so what are some things that you suggest to help eliminate the noise of people who are giving you advice that is unsolicited?
I like to think of my toolbox. So I always have a toolbox, and I'm always polite. I always listen to what people say, but I put that knowledge that they give me in a toolbox, invisible toolbox that I kind of built myself. And, you know, if I agree with it or disagree with it, I still put it in that toolbox. And if I have a horse that, you know, I ever need that advice on, or, you know, I'm racking my brain for answers, I can be like, oh, well, this was put in my toolbox. Maybe I'll try this. Or, you know, this person said this once, maybe I can try this. But that's as far as it goes. It's kind of in my toolbox or my notebook until I need it, or until, you know, that information kind comes proven to me. If you don't kind of let it go through one ear and out the other, then you'll get lost, because there's so many different people, there's so many different styles, and not saying that different styles and different people are wrong. I don't think there's a true right and wrong, but every person's energy and every person's feel and every person's bits and hands and feet act a little bit differently, and what works for that person may not work for the person sitting next to you or the person down the road. And they have to do something a little bit differently because they're harder on their hands, or they use their feet more, or they're like maybe they have an injury that they're compensating for. And everybody has this opinion, and they get these opinions, and they think that only my way is the right way, and I got to tell everybody this is how it's done. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work for every person, and there's different styles, and there's different ways of doing things that work for different people, and you just got to run with each individual horse and individual rider and figure out what works for that team. That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your coach could be teaching 5 kids all the same thing. Well, that same thing may work for 3 out of 5 of them, but there's a different way to skin that cat for the other 2. Not necessarily wrong, not necessarily right, but it works. And you just kind of have to look at other people's advice that way as well, not take it on personally, just what works for each individual.
Yes.
Hey, and Gentry, do you guys have any other questions?
No. Thank you, Alysha, for joining, though. Thank you, Gentry and Camry, for joining today. Just real quick before we end, what's one thing that you guys both learned from Miss Alysha?
I learned that you just have a good mindset about everything, because if you don't have a good mindset, then everything can just kind of collapse. So just have a good mindset on your horses in the arena, outside of the arena,
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes.
I really liked the, did you check yourself at the door? Like, I think that's a really good way of phrasing it, and just allowing people to ask themselves, okay, what is my mindset? And I think that's definitely something that, with my lessons and stuff, that I'm going to use that as well. I think that's really, really great advice. And, I really like having a horse that you can grow into, not just one that you've already outgrown, or not one that's only a little bit ahead, but one that's further ahead. I think those are both really, really good things. And I just really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. You shared a lot of really cool insights that I think that are just important. And I think a lot of them are things that, we talk about on Rodeo Kids often, but you just can't hear them enough. These are things that they are, things that you have to learn and you have to grasp, and it can be against human nature to want to just focus on the one day at a time type of stuff and doing a little bit. And it can be really hard to be your own competition and not want to compete against other people, which are all things that you've talked about. But the more that we have guests like you on, and that can help us remember that and reiterate it, it helps train our brains to become better as well. So I just really appreciate you coming in on the podcast, and for Peyton, for asking you to be a part of it. You've been an awesome guest, and we just thank you for joining us, and definitely wish you the best of luck. It sounds like you've got the knowledge, sounds like you've got the horsepower, and you've got the mindset. It's time for you to buy your card and go take some booty.
Yes.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And I enjoyed talking with y'all, and hopefully I get to talk to y'all soon.
Yes, I sure hope so.